Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Erasmus Expeditions. Tonight, we're going to be having session number 4. Yep, session number 4 of a D&D campaign set in the world of Momentum. And this particular campaign is called Whispers and Fragments. Momentum is a homebrew world that's kind of in the development stages. It's a little bit of a stranger world than I'm used to working on, but so far I've had a lot of fun designing bits and pieces of it, as well as having fine players carve away at it and add some fantastic details of their own. So we are waiting on one more player. Hopefully he'll be able to join us before we get through introductions and whatnot. But if not, then we're just going to roll on anyways. So I'm going to pass things over to my players, let them do their introductions, and then we can get things started. So first up, we have Dave.
Hey, I'm Dave with Mornblade Gaming, and I am happy to be back tonight playing Kalp, the Sky Elf, Valilam. We are in the thick of it, and who's to determine what Royal holds for us? Our Zarkun, our fate is in your hands. But we will do our best and face the coming storms.
Excellent. All right. And anybody that mentions a channel, you should be able to find the link to that channel in the description of this video down below. All right. Next up, we have Jake.
Howdy. I am Jake, also known as Mini Terrain Domain. And I can be found on YouTube and Twitch as Mini Terrain Domain, where I run a bunch of D&D games, do some crafting, and hey, on Thursday nights you can even catch Jeremy over on Mini Terrain Domain Twitch channel, where we run a weekly campaign. And I am playing the Delver Dwarf Katya Kybrick, the adolescent of the group, who is never really sure exactly what's going on, but somehow tries to always be involved. And she's kind of the resident tub thumper, because she gets knocked down and she gets up again. I'm sorry for that. I have no idea why that joke popped into my head. I'm just going to pass it on to the next person.
Maybe yourself. No, I'm just kidding. There's no shame here. And anybody who's watched any of my videos should know that. All right. Next up, we have Jeff.
Yes, hello, everybody. I'm Jeff. I also have a channel of my own. It's called Encounterbalance, where I run some games and do some other stuff sometimes. I'm actually going to be starting session 1 of a new campaign over there this Saturday. It's the first time that it's been announced outside of our little chat for that, so that'll be very exciting. Looking forward to starting that off. It's gearing up to look like it's going to be a lot of fun. I also do another thing, a podcast, though it's kind of become more of a live show thing nowadays, called The Dudes of Yore, with our wonderful GM here, Jeremy, as well as Chad Nick. So go ahead and check that out as well if you're curious to hear 3 people sometimes talk about tabletop stuff and mostly ramble like idiots. Oh, and I am playing Darian. He is a roguish underground criminal sort of fellow who's trying to reform himself, kick his addiction to the terrible drug Aether, and form sort of a new path in his life, which these people are hopefully helping him to do and not hurting. So we'll see what happens in the long term with that.
Absolutely. All right. And last, but for the moment at least, certainly not least, Lloyd.
Hello, I'm Lloyd. I run the channel LDM. There I run games of many varieties. I'm going to play my first wizard ever, I think, in Jeff's new campaign. And it's also a level 10 wizard, so that'll be interesting. I will be an actual god, so you can watch that if you like. I play Ingvarad in this game, who is approaching godhood because she's a spellcaster, and to me that's all just super powerful. Ingvarad is maybe the moral glue of the group. Certainly she thinks she is. And yeah, really excited to be back here.
Fantastic. All right. So yeah, last time was a difficult time for our two bonekin, and we're picking up pretty much exactly where we left off. I am going to go ahead and issue a warning, the same warning I give all of the time. If bad language and moral, yeah, sure, moral stuff is something mature. That's what I was looking for. If mature topics bother you, this is not a game for you. These are all adults. This is an adult channel. This is an adult game. So find something else. All right. If everyone is ready and nobody has any questions, we can go ahead and get started. Excellent. All righty. The sun would fall the day after tomorrow, following the city that bore its namesake to the ground. The light of what some prophets were saying could be the last dusk colored the world in orange, pink, and purple. The heat of Belorion's lantern had been slowly waning over the course of this last month. With any luck, this summer winter will be mild. But momentum is no longer a world for those that require an easy life. Momentum had become a world of struggle and toil. For those that have survived, it had become all too apparent that those who had not were the ones who had found peace. However, even some beasts that have been beaten their entire lives do not consider surrender to be an option. We find ourselves on the deck of this elven airship, floating above the city of Belorion. The signs of struggle still fresh upon the planks that form the deck, some of which have been shattered into a massive hole, and the others have been stained with blood. The righteous indignation bore the Kalandari to this city, but it is crewed by slavers and captained by a human by the name of Captain Hamilton. You were divided when you boarded this ship. Several of you made your way downstairs, where you made a gruesome discovery. Two of you, the elf and the dwarf amongst your number, remained on deck fighting these slavers. But when the dwarf was put to sleep with poison, the elf threw his hands up and asked for parley, using his name to stay the hands of those that would kill him. So, as we join our heroes, the battle has ceased for now, and you are all being rounded up together. So, how does this moment look for the four of you?
I would imagine that immediately after tying a bandage around his area that was severely bleeding, and Kalp immediately turn to the second mate probably and says, it's only customary to allow the party of the parleyance to accompany them. As he looks to the form of the snoring Katya. And I believe we have some other companions aboard. I trust that you comply to that.
He says, the only reason that we have stayed our hands is because the captain has ordered it so. Gather your friends. You will meet with him shortly.
You're too kind. And I kind of say it with an edge of like, I could be being sarcastic, but I could be being cordial. As I kind of step over to the form of Katya and kneel down and reach over, and her hands are bound, so I'm going to put one hand rested on them and then slightly tap her on the cheeks, just enough to wake her from the sleep.
I think at first it takes you a few slaps until you have to get a good hearty slap in there. And when you go for that next slap, a hand comes up and grabs at your wrist. Slap me again, one more time, and see what happens. And then I struggle to open my eyes, and seeing Kelp sort of immediately release the wrist and sort of like looking around, not sure of my surroundings. What?
Poison.
What?
They used poison. I have to ask you though, stay your hands and just follow my lead, please. Please mind your tongue, and I mean that in the best way possible. Let us retrieve our friends. Right now that we are... It's very dangerous at the moment, but anyway, he kind of winks at you.
I have that look and even open my mouth like I'm about to say something, and then sort of stop and kind of take in the surroundings and a quick assessment of the situation. And I probably for the first time, you would see me hold my tongue.
Very good. Let us find our the bonekin.
And as we move below decks, where 3 bonekin are standing, and Darian is somewhere in that mixture, you can hear you're being beckoned to come up top. You can see at the edge of the hole, Kalp is trying to rouse Katya. So it looks like they are safe for the moment, at least. But what's going on below decks?
Darian is like taking Viddaraas to like the other end of the hold on the opposite side of where this door is to ensure that she does not see or hear what happens as Basterad does what he has to do in that other room. And he'll just like be just babbling to her about random nonsense, historical events, things that happened to him in the past, just anything stupid, just to have noise that's going into her ears to ensure that she doesn't get too kind of into her own head about what's happening, trying to make sure that she stays present because they're still in a dangerous situation in place. And he's just doing anything he can to ensure that she stays aware and doesn't fall too far into the pit of grief right now.
You can see that she is doing what she can to keep herself together. She seems to maybe even either realize what you're doing or just being willing to play along, noting the necessity of it just as much as you do. But she's trembling and just sobbing uncontrollably.
Ingvar has like moved out of the room where Basterad is, and is like not looking into it. It's like looking straight ahead at the hallway, and like the wall at the other side of it, and is just trying to keep herself together as best she can, and like can't deal with Viddaraas at the moment, and like try and help her. She's just like staring, sort of shocked.
And the moment happens when Basterad is now exiting the room where this has just taken place. Basterad, you can see that Ingvarad has kind of moved off to the side. Definitely looks like she's taking a moment to herself. And you can see across the cargo hold, the open space, that Darian is doing what he can to try to comfort Viddaraas, who you can see is just trembling and her shoulders are heaving. What's going on with
Basterad glares over to Darian for a second, but lowers his eyes if he sees Darian look back, and as he kind of quietly exits, you see his head's hung a little lower, and he doesn't have quite his belligerent energy about him. He just walks out to the group. We should get out of here.
Ingvarad's going to put her hand on Basterad's shoulder and then like place her like where the horns begin, forehead, like against his. I could have done it, but thank you.
He just closes his eyes, nods very slightly. I want to leave this place.
Ingvarad will then do everything in her power to make us leave this place as quickly as possible.
Viddaraas looks to you, Basterad, as you've spoken, and you can see this. It's a sliver of hope, the last little piece of possibility in her eyes shatters whenever she sees you, and she realizes that the deed has in fact been done, and she falls apart. She throws herself into your arms, Basterad, and just sobs into your chest, almost just becoming completely a puddle on the floor, just almost falling.
Basterad will hold her tight for just a moment and then pull back to grasp her by the shoulders. Viddaraas, I know what you're going through right now. Believe me. No one understands like I do. But we don't have time to fall apart. We need to keep moving. This place isn't safe. There will be time Takes a second to compose himself. There will be time for grief when we are safe.
But Da, she's
I know.
gone. She's never coming back.
She was gone a long time ago. When the ether takes you, there is no coming back. Please, I don't want to talk about this further right now. Let's focus on the task at hand. I need something.
Okay.
Just please.
Okay. I'll try. She sniffles hard, kind of wipes her nose on the back of her sleeve, and kind of pats at her eyes with her palms a few times before you are rounded up by Kalp and Katya, who are now heading down the stairs. Whichever one of you is breaching this subject of what is expected next, how is that conversation going between the five of you?
Darian will be like
Call-
noticeably fidgety at the mention of like once the aether takes you, there's no coming back. Like he'll become like uncomfortable. But then the moment that the distraction comes of Kalp and Katya, he'll kind of eagerly, just as much to distract himself as the mourning others, will kind of look to them coming down the stairs, and look up. You have news from up there?
There's a lot of blood here. Culp is just looking confused. You don't... Well, he looks over at Katya and he says, I've asked for a parley with Hamilton, the captain, and he's given it to me. But I also require that you don't raise weapons while we complete this discussion. It remains to be seen as to the outcome of our current state. We're overwhelmed.
They're going to kill us, you know, or enslave us at the very least and sell us.
I don't like to think that way, Darian.
I'm glad
We
you
can
have
hope
that luxury.
We have some credulity to barter with.
Bone kin don't tolerate shackles. It will not happen.
Everyone who crews this ship is already dead. They just don't know yet.
Buster,
That may be the case. But
it's
we need to...
likely. So you go.
I was going to say that may be the case, but we need to move, as I can feel the goons pressing up against me for me to move. As I'm kind of giving you that look of like uncomfortability of like, and you can see that I'm bloodied and kind of limping, and I look pretty well fucked up. So.
Ingrid will lean over to Basterad and say, it is likely that most of the slavers here had no concept of what was happening in that room. It's advanced beyond their sort of skill. And we need to be calm so we can get your daughter out of here.
He looks to Viddaraas for a moment. Fine. I'll hold myself for now, for her.
I'm not saying there cannot be vengeance, because there will be vengeance. But now we need to be calm.
As I'm talking to them and kind of getting pushed by these goons, I take the opportunity to sort of slide past and see if I can get a look into the room that they came out of.
Yeah, I would say so. It's not a very deep room, and the figure was not far from the doorway. And you can see on the outside of the door, kind of beside it, on the wall, there is your family's crest, emblazoned on a placard, and in Elven is written ether filters.
And I recognize the rig that's set up in there.
Yeah, I would imagine it's not the first time you've seen one. And you can see that on it is, in kind of one of these like cages, is a bonekin woman.
And I actually almost, I kind of, especially under the effects of low hit points, I kind of swooned for a moment under the weight of it all. And I kind of hit the wall behind me and kind of reach down and hold my stomach and cough and act like I'm just having the effects of an after battle. But I visibly I've paled at the sight of it because I've seen it before, but it's sickening, and especially under the circumstances that usually they were willing is what I was to be understood. I don't say that, but, and I start walking up. Shoulders kind of slumped.
Well, then we should go parlay if we're going to parlay. No reason to sit here. Darren will just kind of shrug and begin walking towards Kalp and Katja up the stairs.
And Kalp kind of, it takes him a minute to kind of come back, and yet he looks at Darian for a moment like he can't focus on him for a moment, and then he nods his head and says, yes, yes. Takes a deep breath and just sort of starts walking as he steels himself and as best he can.
Bastrad will put his arm around Viddaraas and give her just sort of a gentle nod. Come on, come. And start walking along as well.
This is one of those moments where Katja, being the youngest, not really understanding anything of what has happened with Bastrad or Inverad or any. Honestly, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know that I fully understand what a parlay is. This is one of those moments where Katja looks really young. That innocence sort of in her demeanor. Part of it is just getting her ass kicked in that last fight, yet again. But a big part of it is there's that sort of sixth sense for something heavy has happened and is affecting her friends. And so wherever either Kelp or Ingvarad are going, I'm by one of their sides, if not sort of positioned between them. It's a weird, almost like in these moments, they're paternal and maternal figures. And Katja even, I feel my age. I feel that youngness and naivete to what's going on in the world. So doing what Kelp said, keeping my mouth shut and just following along, but also keeping my eyes open.
Katja, it is with your eyes open that as you're being led into what you presume to be the captain's quarters at the rear of the ship, you spot a weapon. something that you typically only see in dwarven lands. This weapon is sitting in an open box that is lined in some kind of velvet. What part of this Hellhound pistol do you recognize having seen before, and why is that?
I immediately recognize the color and the texture of the iron that is used in the making of the barrel and the demonic edifice. In part because that's in large part because I have spent a considerable amount of time in hell carving out from the rock the veins of ore from which this and other metals that are used in the construction of this and other weapons. But being so young and you got to work your way up to the more precious metals. And so I was an iron miner, but I also recognize the demonic face that forms the opening of the barrel as a caricature. Though no one but the dwarves know this, these weapons are caricatures of actual demon faces from hell, from the down under.
Excellent. You are paraded back into this aft castle. The room is dimly lit and well appointed, though maybe not the most current as far as fashion goes. But it is luxurious, and you can see figures standing kind of at the shadow's edge around this room. They have the look of bodyguards. A sweet smell of perfume and incense kind of hangs in the air here, kind of helping to quell the smell of the body odor from the rest of the crew. And you can see this silhouetted figure seated in a large, wide chair against a window at the back. He lowers a cup from his lips and gestures to several chairs that have been set out before him across a table. He says, "Please, take a seat." Do not be shy. You have asked for parley, and for the moment you have it. So please.
Thank you, Captain Hamilton. Your kindness is welcome. As a wisp, as my exhale is carried into the light, I step forward and take a seat and point, to the others to have a seat.
Bastrad will lead after a brief tense moment. Bastrad will lead Viddaraas over to a seat and seat her down and sit himself. But he sits fairly rigidly and sort of stiff.
Ingvar will sit on the other side of Viddaraas.
I climb up into a chair that is just a little too big, annoyed that I have to climb up into this chair this way, sitting next to Kelp with my legs kind of almost sticking straight out as I sit back in the chair. But sitting down, I'm immediately struggling to not slip back into sleep. I'm still pretty messed up from that last fight. And I imagine some of that, like an anesthetic, some of that sleep poison still moves through my veins. And just sitting there, it's that the closeness of the room and the weariness as I am immediately, my lids are getting a little heavy.
An observant person would notice that as he sips from this chalice, his eyes over the rim of the glass certainly fall upon the three bonekin, almost as if appraising them. His eyes then shift to you, Darian. Have you taken a seat, or are you standing somewhere?
Sorry, was that at me?
Yes.
For a second. Yeah, Darian would take a seat as well. He'll kind of like begin like nervously like lifting the chair off of its front two legs, tilting it back and then back down into the ground. Just kind of in a repetitive, nervous habit, but he'll keep his eyes locked firmly on this captain figure and meet his gaze as it comes across him.
He takes his hand that's kind of on the back of this chair and waves two fingers kind of in your direction, and slaves come from various corners of the room carrying platters with food and pitchers of wine. They pour drinks for you and serve you fresh fruit while he watches you, Darian, for just a moment. And while this is being meted out to you, he says to you, Darian, "Don't I know you from somewhere, Horizon Seeker? You seem familiar to me."
And Darian's eyes will kind of move quizzically at that person.
No, I don't think so. I don't think you've ever met this man. You may have heard his name before, maybe.
Yeah, he would just kind of shake his head. Well, a lot of us sailor types look the same. Probably just a trick of the eyes or the mind.
Perhaps. Please, enjoy my wine. It is plum wine. It's from, it is a Renevati wine, so it should be to your standards, I think. So, he looks at you, Kalp. You say you are of the Antuo family, is this correct?
This is true.
I find this very interesting. And it is for this reason why I have not already had you killed.
That is what I thought would have been the case.
Allow me, if you would, to introduce you to a friend of mine. A bodyguard. Maybe pet. This is Discretion. You can guess as to why I might call him that. You see, this dwarf who wears this horned mask that covers the lower portion of his face where a beard would normally be. He is very, very big for a dwarf. Not size, height-wise, just he's a large dwarf. And he's covered in scars and burn marks and just basically every kind of wound you can imagine. He looks feral in the eyes, almost like an animal on a leash. He says, "You see, discretion is important to me. Discretion is a friend of mine, and if I am forced to, I will release my discretion. I don't think you want to see that happen. So, I expect the best behavior from you. You have come aboard my ship without an invitation."
Correction. Your crew did invite us aboard. In fact, I have the key here.
It would do well for you to not interrupt me again. You come on board my ship without my permission. You kill members from my crew. You destroy parts of my ship and part of my cargo. Those of my guests, at the least. And then you have the audacity to ask for my forgiveness, for parley. It is because of your family name that I have granted you this. So, you will do me a favor, I think. You have your signet ring with you, I would assume?
I look to him and nod.
Excellent, yes. He waves his hand again. Slaves come forward and produce 2 scrolls. They unfurl them in front of you. Bring a lit candle and a stick of wax. He says, "You will press your seal into these 2 documents for me, lending your family's signature and concluding the business that is written upon them."
I have a question.
Yes. What is it?
The woman downstairs. Who ordered that?
You are referring to the woman in the bindings, I believe, yes? The bonekin.
Yes.
I believe she was being harvested.
She had a name.
Well, I see that this has upset you greatly, and for that, you have my sincerest apologies. It is not my doing. The Ontuo family has members who are working with the Kalandari. It was the Kalandari's cargo. It is not for me to question.
Do you have a specific name of who ordered this? I will not judge you for making money in whatever means you see fit, though we are all accountable to our own actions. I understand that you maybe worry less about this than others, but whoever did this tortured someone who is very dear to me.
Well, your business is with the Kalandari, the cardinal of the Kalandari, no less. Her name is Iverazad. But if you exact your revenge upon her, I expect that you are a woman of your word. And I would appreciate it if things do not turn out the way you would expect, that this does not come back to be visited upon me.
I have no interest in dealings with you beyond the information that you've given us.
Well, fortunate for me.
Basret is sitting in a slightly seething silence, but going along, following Ingvarad's play at the moment.
Kalp is using this opportunity to actually read the documents that they've laid before them.
Okay. Doesn't take you long to realize the kind of document it is. It would take time to read over exactly what it contained, but you can tell that this is a manifest, that this is essentially saying that goods have been delivered. The other is a note for deposit into an account in Arenevat. He raises an eyebrow at you studying the documents. You hesitate. Why?
Training has taught me that you must read a document before you press your name to it.
Yes, yes. Elves and your rigid ways of doing things.
With that, I'm gonna down the wine. And where's the wine located? Is it the center of the table, or?
Yeah, the little table that's kind of between you. There's a cravat of it sitting there.
I down my cup, and then I get up and walk slowly to the bottle, and I say, "May I? I'm about to sign my life away forever."
People to do that for you, but allow me. And he reaches out and grabs the cravat and begins to pour, if you'll present your glass to him.
Yeah, I present it to him. How many people are in this room?
There's the two of them, and you count at least maybe another four bodyguards, and then the number of slaves that have come and gone is at least that many.
And I take the cup and I begin walking and inspecting the room. You have a beautiful ship, Captain Hamilton. Well appointed.
Yes, it
It's
was
amazing that I've never heard of you.
Please.
I meant no offense.
It'll take a lot more than that to get under my skin. You can sign these documents and press your seal to the wax, or we can remove your hand and do it without your permission.
Well, I appreciate your discretion.
You do not appreciate my discretion yet, I promise you.
So you would wish to shame me in front of my family, extort me.
I wish nothing of the kind. I wish
That's what these documents will do.
These documents will make me a lot of money, some of which will be spent repairing the damage that you have done to my ship and to my crew. Not to mention my pride. Under the parlay, we are friends. You are enjoying the hospitality of a guest. I have treated you fairly. Much more so than you have treated me and my men. I do not understand why you now show trepidation against repaying the favors I have shown you.
Your kindness is innumerable.
My patience is not.
I'm trying to think of a way that I can actually smudge the seal or something that so it won't show, or
Okay, sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
that sounds like probably a sleight of hand if you're trying to do it like on the down low.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I down the wine and I walk over and hold the cup out for him to fill my cup again.
No, that is enough.
Oh. I guess I've taken too much of your kindness. And then I set the cup down in front of him and walk over to the table and sit down with, like I'm getting prepared to sign these very important documents. And you said rolling a deception?
Sleight of hand.
Sleight of hand. All right. Ooh, dirty 20. So as I reach down and I do so, I do it just enough that I know that it would be, when presented, would have difficulty.
Excellent. It's not enough to outright look incorrectly done. Just enough that it would require closer inspection. Perfect. He does not seem to either notice or care. Once it's done, he very quickly waves the slave that had brought them forward away, who kind of waves the paper trying to cool the wax and carries them out of the room. He claps his hands once. Well, our business is done.
So soon. I was enjoying myself.
I am sure you were. I am prepared to let you go. However, not all of you will leave. One of you will become my property.
Absolutely not under no circumstances.
You are under the impression that we are negotiating.
That's what a parlay is, negotiation. There is no way that any of us. And she looks to the rest of them right?
This was not a negotiation to leave one of our party.
You have done me a great insult today.
You want to speak about insult? What I saw in the cargo that you agreed to carry, that was
I reach over and I touch Bostarod's hand to stay him. Hopefully he stops. And
yeah,
I
like
look
a mirror
over.
movement. Ingrid does the same thing. I imagine they move exactly the same time and both put a hand on Bastarad.
And he shakes his hand off. What I saw down there was an insult to everything that is alive And he starts to rise from his chair.
Hold Bastarad.
You feel
Captain Hamilton.
You feel Viddaraas' hands on your shoulders, Bastarad. And at first, the strength is actually kind of surprising. But it very quickly softens, and she looks at you with grave seriousness in her face and shakes her head.
And that seems to be the thing that snaps him out, and he starts to slowly settle back down in his chair. My apologies for the outburst. And he closes his eyes for a moment and starts breathing very heavily and very slowly.
Captain Hamilton, under the auspices of procedure, that was what was done to this bonekin, was to be done under willing circumstances. From my understanding, this individual was not an ether, was not one who imbibed of the ether.
The business of your family and the Kalandari is not the business of mine. The business of transporting the Kalandari and their cargo is my business. I make it a habit to not get involved in things that are not my business.
The Kalandari that you're waiting for are not coming back.
Is that so? You have dispatched the Cardinal?
Ingvad looks at Katya. We killed 2 of them.
You killed 2 Kalandari. Bravo. I do not think you would be standing here if you had faced Cardinal Neverzat.
We didn't really face her. We pulled a building down on top of her, if that was her.
Perhaps. You will forgive me if I will not take my chances on your word. Very well. Discretion. Take that one. He
I'm
points
gonna cast Hold Person.
Excellent. Let's roll initiative.
Ooh. How long have we been sitting here having this conversation?
I will allow it to require or to be a prereq for a short rest.
You were exactly where the warlock was going with that one. All right, I'm gonna spend that last hit die real quick. Oh, fuck, I roll a 1.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess if it's short rest.
Initiative.
Oh shit, I got some hit dice.
Here we go.
Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Some of your party members are bloodthirsty.
We're all just sitting here like, you can hear the Western music. Everyone's like just about to go, you know. He says discretion. I'm like, I'm doing it.
No, yeah, this is the fucking Tarantino movie.
Yeah.
Who did I miss? Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. Thank you for doing that, Lloyd. All right. So, Darian, You are up first, but let's go ahead and take care because Ingvarad certainly kind of got an action off before everyone kind of realized exactly the moment that this was happening. So, Ingvarad, you said you were casting Hold Person.
That's right, on discretion, so he needs to make a wisdom save.
Discretion, wisdom.
DC
Ooh, that's probably one of the good ones.
DC is 13.
Okay, he failed.
All right, guys, we did it.
Okay. So he calls for his bodyguard, and discretion has barely any chance to take like a half step forward before Ingvarad has thrown this spell in his direction. And what does that look like?
So she's been thinking about it this whole time since she saw this thing that I imagine is kind of like slavering over in the corner. She's been like thinking about it and like making it ready in her mind for when it goes off. And when it happens, she simply like bites the meat between her thumb and her forefinger and like whispers a curse, and he simply stops.
Yeah, he makes this kind of audible, like almost like a growl that was starting in his chest, but then just kind of like ekes out of his throat in a whimper as he completely seizes up under the power of your prayer. Now, Darian, you have seen that the shit has hit the fan. So what would you like to do?
All this time, Darian has been kind of maintaining this kind of persona of like casuality, of just kind of being in the chair, trying to be the one who's reasonable and wanting to be peaceful. But in reality, he knows how these sorts of things go. And that sort of appearance immediately fades the moment he hears the words begin to fall from Ingvarad's mouth, and he sees this creature seize up under the coming threat of slavery. And he's going to know exactly what's about to happen. As I'm sure he's been through many of these sorts of standoffs into battles before. He'll like lunge forward at this stopped, frozen dwarf beast for what it is. Just immediately, the blade flashing as if like from nowhere, will like rush forward and stab right into this creature. So I will roll with advantage because he's paralyzed, and that is going to be a 22.
Will absolutely hit.
So because he's paralyzed as well, this will be a critical hit automatically. Because I have advantage, it was sneak attack as well. So that's going to be 25 piercing damage.
Nice. All the damage.
As just this short, slightly curved sailor sword that Darian carries will just like go like almost halfway through to hilt deep inside this dwarf, as they'll just stab it right through the chest. And just like look at it, like almost scared to approach it, even though it's frozen because of how menacing it looks.
You can see this thing's ice blue eyes kind of lock onto you, wide with shock and surprise, but unable to move anything but these eyes. Not even a noise escapes this dwarf except for the gushing of blood as it seeps from this wound that you just created. Hamilton is beside himself, but you can see is very much caught off guard for the moment. Katya, it is your turn.
So I just have a couple quick questions. One, how high is the ceiling?
It's pretty low in here, probably 8 feet at the most.
It could still work. How far away from me is the crate that had the Hellhound pistol in it?
It's back just outside the door.
I was outside of the room?
Yeah, it would be like 20 feet from where you're at currently, but between that here and there.
Final question.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw it in the crate, were they just weapons, or did they look? Was there ammo there, or?
You did not see any ammunition with it, but this was like a like a small box that was basically just bigger than the hellhound itself,
Ooh.
like a specialized box, if you will.
And it was outside the door. Was the door open or closed?
The door is closed currently.
Okay. I'm going to jump up. So I'm standing on the chair and sort of jump behind the chair, almost like I'm hiding behind the chair. And as I do so, my eyes have taken on that. They just sort of almost instantly cloud over with this inky blackness, and the shadow sort of runs down my veins of my arm. And taking Darian's lead, I'm going to fire an Eldritch Blast that just looks like corporeal shadow bursting from my hand at this discretion. So that's going to be... Are you freaking kidding me? Okay, well, that's a 8.
Do you not also have advantage?
Do I?
I believe so. Because he's
Paralyzed, so yeah.
Well, that was a natural 1. So, still, despite the rest, sitting there all that time, that sleep poison really did a number on me, and I'm not fully recovered. And I think if you'll allow this, the Eldritch Blast absolutely hits the dwarf squarely, but as if it were nothing more than shadow. It loses any oomph behind it and sort of splashes harmlessly across his chest
absolutely.
with a muttered "Thristfiend."
Yeah, it kind of rolls off of him like smoke that's been blown kind of at his chest. Okay. Just then, there is a loud crash. All of you, if you would, please roll me dexterity saving throws. Those of you who are still seated, you can have advantage.
Ooh, natural 20. Where was that on the attack? 21.
It's 2 nat 20s. Fantastic. Okay. All right. So, Ingvarad, a handful of the slaves in the room and the paralyzed dwarf are both thrown to the floor as this entire ship like rocks from something hitting it. You can see the look of surprise on Captain Hamilton's face shift ever so slightly as his concerns grow beyond than just the happenings inside this room. Yelling begins from outside, and you can hear the footfalls of the slavers running around on the deck. Ingvarad, it is your turn.
Okay, so I will try and stand sort of shakily, and then I'm going to... Kalp is still badly wounded, as far as I can tell by looking at him. Is that right?
He gave us a short rest, so I used to.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm
Okay,
looking better. Thank you.
Then in that case, I will try and bring pain upon this dwarf. So I'm going to call out to Belorion, and then I'm going to beseech him to guide this light into the heart of this enemy, and I'm going to try and hit him with the real powerful thing, guiding bolt. And he's still paralyzed, right?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
I guess
He makes a save on his turn.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a 19 on the die plus a bunch, which I think will probably hit.
Yes, absolutely.
Boy. It's going to be... it's going to be 28 radiant damage, and the next attack against him has advantage.
All right. By my count, that puts him at 53. Yeah, he's visibly scorched by this radiant fire that you've just kind of called down upon him, as well as kind of bleeding from this puncture wound that Darian has delivered. But he, other than just being knocked over from the rocking of the ship, you can see that he is still alive. Okay. Calp.
How far is the captain from that window behind him?
Maybe 3 feet.
Does it look like a sturdy piece of window?
Yeah, it's made of like inlaid pieces of wood.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty sizable. I would say it's probably close to about an inch thick, maybe a little more. It is also kind of high up above him, so it's not like floor level. So it's not that it's not possible. It just might be difficult.
Yeah, I was thinking of a booming blade, because if I hit him, it's kind of like the thunderous blast or thunder. You know what I mean?
Thunder wave.
Yeah, it kind of blows him back. But actually, what I'm going to do, Katya was engaged, didn't she?
She is on the ground, kind of knelt behind her chair, from my understanding.
Okay. And you need healing, right? Okay.
Yeah. Katya's still looking really rough from that previous encounter.
So I am going to produce a potion of healing, if you don't mind, and an antitoxin, and just hold it out to you. And with my other hand, I'm going to say the words quickly of fire in Elven as I blow forward, and then fire just erupts from prestidigitation on the two contracts that are setting in front of me. If you're okay with it. They didn't take them yet, right?
Yeah, they did. They had taken it from.
All right.
Sorry.
I thought they were still in front of me. That's okay. So I used my action then to produce a potion of healing and the antitoxin if it's still impacting her.
I don't know if I'm still, if it was a persistent poison, Jeremy.
No. It's kind of one of those things that wears off pretty quickly. It's used just to basically incapacitate you long enough for them to gain control of you. So it's pretty much run its course at this point.
Okay. So probably the potion of healing with the blue swirliness inside of it. Take it. So I use that and I kind of roll it over into her hand, I would imagine, and then use a bonus action to, as I reach into one of my sides as I produce a shadow blade.
Okay. You summon your incorporeal weapon into your hand. Meanwhile, discretion makes his saving throw. It was a DC of what again, Ingvarad?
13.
13, okay. Darian, from where you are standing, kind of over this dwarf who fell over, when the ship was rocked, as you kind of like reach out and stabilize yourself somehow against a piece of heavy furniture. You look down and you notice that he is now moving. It seems to be kind of slowly returning to him. He's not able to gain control of himself just yet, but he's definitely not still paralyzed. Bastarad.
Bastarad will turn his head just slightly to Viddaraas and say, "Hide behind something," and will launch himself out of the chair directly at discretion. And as he does so, whip his quarterstaff from off his. Well, I guess it wouldn't actually. It would be just like he'll like pick the quarterstaff up from his chair and just try to bring it down right on this thing as he sees that it's moving.
While he is no longer paralyzed, he is still prone, so you will still qualify for advantage.
Okay. So my regular action, quarterstaff, that's a 15.
Unfortunately, your strike thumps against his armor, the little that he's wearing, and doesn't seem to affect him at all.
Well, at that, he will try to bring a foot down on him in a bonus unarmed. Oh, that's a nat 20.
Excellent.
That works out. Ish. Because I think that's only a D4, but hey. Every point counts, right?
Especially when it's a crit.
Yeah. Okay, so that's going to be max damage plus roll.
Max damage plus roll plus modifiers.
Okay, so 6, 8, 11 points of damage for that one.
All right, I believe that puts him at 64. All right. Yeah, he's just taking this wailing within this brief window of time that all of this is unfolding rapidly. Hamilton finally is able to kind of have a chance to react. You can see he hops to his feet and kind of flips over the back of the couch to put a little bit of a barrier between himself and the rest of you. And he then makes a dart for the door. You watch him move with a fair amount of speed, pushing several of these slaves out of his way more towards you and exiting the captain's quarters. The slaves all turn to you, brandishing whatever they can. Belaying clubs, pieces of furniture that they may be able to grab a hold of. And they stalk forward, doing their best to stop you. One of them is going to approach each of you and make an attack. Dave dropped his AC in the chat before he went, so we're going to do him. Oh, we'll do him first. All right. Okay, somebody remind Dave. Well, actually, I'll just put it in the chat. One of these slaves comes up behind Calp and smashes a wooden stool into his back. Another one comes up to you, Bastarad, and hurls this pitcher of wine in your direction, wildly missing and shattering on the wall beside you. One comes to you, Katya, and attempts to swing this belaying pin down at you. What is your AC? No, 14. There you go. That's with mage armor. Okay, so this will bypass even your mage armor and is going to deal, likewise, 3 points of bludgeoning damage to you as this thing cracks you kind of right on the collarbone. Another with a belaying pin has approached Ingvarad. And all but trips over their feet on some of the spilled contents of one of these trays whenever the ship was rocked. Another approaches Darian and swings at you, Darian, with another stool. Your AC. What is your AC, Darian?
15.
15. Okay. Misses you. There's just kind of this whoosh of air as this thing kind of swings close to your head, but you manage to get well out of the way. One of them actually hits Viddaraas in the head with one of the trays, and apparently hits her directly in the temple with it. You hear a crack of her horn, and she is going to take 6 points of bludgeoning damage. That brings us back to the top of the round with Darian.
Darian is going to see this monster of a dwarf beginning to stir, the magic wearing off so quickly. He's going to lean down with his sword still into the dwarf's chest, and is going to just wrench grizzly with this grisly suction of blood as he's just going to twist the blade in this dwarf's chest and just try to wrench the wound open as far as he can. I actually rolled with advantage because he's still prone, and I rolled a nat 20. So,
all right, do your thing.
So that is, it's max plus roll. So that's out. It's gonna hurt. That's gonna be 26 piercing again as he just wrenches this blade in this twisting grisly motion, wrenching this wound even wider, forcing even more blood out.
You lean into this wound and press it against the walls of the opening that you've created, kind of widening this out. And this time he certainly makes a noise. He is still not dead. You can see blood starting to pour out of the holes in the seams of this mask that covers the lower part of his face. But he is not yet. Go ahead.
With a disgusting squishing sound, Darian will wrench the blade out and throw the blood off of the blade for a moment, and he'll just yell to the others, "Finish him off!" And then I'm going to use my cunning action to disengage. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to dash away. So the dwarf will be unable to opportunity attack me because of one of my features as a swashbuckler. If I hit a creature with a melee attack, it cannot opportunity attack me, but the slave will. And I'm going to dash out of the room after the captain, using my extra movement to try to get in front of him and force him to go through me.
Okay. You will have to move not only away from the slave that struck at you, but one of the other ones you'll have to bypass fairly close. This room is not overly large, and it has a lot of people and quite a bit of furniture in it. So both of them are going to take a swing at you. Oh, the one that you were engaged with is going to hit. The other, however, is not. So the one that you were engaged with hits you for 4 points of bludgeoning damage, kind of right along your lower back with this stool. But you manage to slip away and move and head out the door. What is your movement speed?
So it's base 30, but between the dash and the movement, it'll be 60 total.
Excellent. Okay. You come out the door and eye the captain as he's moving along the deck. You see him wrestling the scrolls of paper that he had Kalp press his seal to from the slave who had given it to him. And he has moved over to where the elevator operates from. You can hear him shouting orders for them to activate the elevator. You move across the deck as several of the slavers have not had a chance to respond to exactly what's happening yet, and you manage to slip by a few of them. He has looked in your direction and draws a scimitar. In his offhand, he holds these scrolls of paper, and he brandishes the scimitar in your direction. I will not go down without a fight. I will have you know. All right.
Hardly expect otherwise.
Katya.
Who is directly engaged with or near the discretion?
Immediately nobody. None of your allies. Oh, Bastarod is next to him. I'm sorry. You're right.
All right. So I'm going to angle this so that I catch discretion as well as the floor beneath his feet and try not to hit Bastarod with it. Even if I have to take out part of the wall, as the shadow smoke from my hands, I sort of gesture and utter these infernal arcane words, and it sort of forms in the air and slams like a sudden smoke drop against the ground at his feet as I cast Shatter. And he needs to make a Constitution saving throw.
Con save. Okay. What is the DC?
DC is 12.
He rolled a 20 on the die.
Well, he's still going to take 7, which is half of the 14
Okay.
thunder damage. I think that's thunder.
Probably.
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know what? I'm going to say that the slave is caught in that as well. But he rolled really well also. So he was apparently on the edge of it and recoils as the smoke kind of like bursts out and causes this shatter. It absolutely takes out a part of the wall, kind of at the back. And though discretion certainly was impacted by this, you can see blood now pouring from his ears in addition to from beneath his mask. He is still alive.
The wall that it took out part of, is it open to the outside?
Yes. It is the aft of the ship, so you can see like air and hear the wind like whistling.
I'm going to leap over the chair. And how far away is he? He was right in front of us where we were sitting down, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's likely 15 feet away from you at the most.
All right, that's a little too far to do what I was going to do. Close enough for me to get to him. I was going to springboard off of the chair, which I will still do, but just to close the distance. And I'm just going to run at him, and I just want a flying kick at him, trying to knock him out that opening.
Okay, so that will take like a shove attack. So you'll have to wait until you have another action to do so. Unless the spell that you cast was a bonus action.
No.
Okay. So yeah, you can absolutely start making your way that direction. But you won't be able to actually make the attack against.
In that case, I'm gonna hold.
Okay.
Preparing to possibly do that next round. I'll just hold my ground.
Sure thing. Stuff gets kind of ripped through this now open space. And Katya, as you're eyeing this whole kind of contemplating this move, making the calculations of distance and approximate force that you might have to use, you see a piece of cobbled street attached to a large chunk of stone float upwards past the opening. And this is probably the size of Bastarad, give or take.
I don't know that I would even have the presence of mind to say anything in particular.
And just as you're kind of studying this and trying to puzzle it out in your head, there's another loud crash. You hear the splintering of wood come from the open door that leads back out onto the deck where Darian has just escaped. You hear shouts of slavers. It sounds like that decrease in volume as they fade, likely having just been thrown overboard. Darian on the deck. The boat is rocked again as a piece of the city down below that apparently still has enough ether in the ground to give it buoyancy has broken itself free and floated upwards and collided with the ship. The crew is beginning to yell about the city breaking apart. There is panic that starts to ensue. Everyone, please give me another dexterity saving throw as this collides with the ship. Okay. This was a much more significant chunk of Belorion, and it takes a part of the righteous indignation with it. And all of you are thrown from your feet onto the ground, including the captain, most of the crew. Ingvarad, it is your turn.
So I'll like groggily get to my feet and like try and understand what's happening. Like what keeps hitting the ship. I guess I can't really see from in here, but I do know that this terrible mutant dwarf still seems to be breathing somehow, and I'm going to try and cure him of that. So I'm actually going to try and hit him with my hammer, and because I'm a bonekin, I can make a shove as a bonus. I'm going to try and shove him towards the hole in the side.
Nice. Okay. He is still prone, so you'll have advantage on the attack.
Excellent. Okay, let me see here. What is my plus? Am I making a melee attack? What is this?
And the free shove thing, is that a thing for your horns, or is that just something you get to do in addition?
So when you use the attack action during your turn to make a melee attack, you can attempt to shove a creature with your horns as a bonus action.
Nice. Okay.
So I got a dirty 20 for my attack with the hammer.
Okay.
And that will do 6 plus 3. Yep, so 9 damage from that.
Okay.
And then make a shove attempt, which I'm not super sure how that works.
You
Target
make
must be no
another
more than
attack
one
roll.
side larger.
I think you can make
Yeah,
an
okay.
athletics check.
Yeah, that's right. I just looked it up there.
Mhm.
Okay, so athletics. Whew, okay, I got 22 all up.
Okay. You slam your hammer into this guy, and then you lower your head and begin pushing him kind of along the ground, almost like you're like hunkered down almost like on all fours, I would imagine, like just slamming into this thing's back and just pushing. He turns around and kind of feebly grabs like at your clothing and your horns. You can feel these massive hands just kind of pawing at you, trying to get a hold of you as he realizes what's happening, but he's not able to get any purchase on you. So describe to me how you end Discretion's life.
Like the hammer blow is bad enough, but then as I start to like push, there's more than once that he tries to like roll in a different direction, and like a horn skewers him here or there. I think then eventually, with the pushing and the shoving, he's like brought to the edge and pushed over it. And Ingvad will like stand like worryingly close to the edge and like push herself back from it.
As you kind of push yourself back, a chunk of city about the size of a skull kind of zips past you, kind of narrowly avoiding the impact as you kind of lean back into the opening, and you see Discretion fall and hit another piece of the city that's coming upwards that meets him part way, and he glances off of it and disappears into the rubble below.
I think she like turns to the rest of the group, but like isn't able to explain what's happening outside. So she just like takes a breath.
All right, Kalp.
Yeah, I would imagine that you see Kalp like standing up at the edge of the table, and he actually is probably locks eyes with Ingvarad as he sees what just happened, and he just kind of nods to her, and still holding this blade, begins chanting this blade song, and so it's going to take half my movement to get up, and so that's. But with Blade Song, my movement is increased by 10 feet. So I have a total of 40. So that means 20. So I am going to run behind Darian and pursue the captain.
Okay.
The captain is prone at the moment.
Yes. Are you taking a dash action, or are you just moving your normal speed?
Well, I'm hoping to throw the Shadow Blade because it's capable of being thrown.
Okay. So at this point, you're going to be about 25 feet away from the captain, but yes, he is prone.
Okay, so it is. So it'd be at a disadvantage on that throw because it's a 20 and a 60 foot on the throw.
Yes.
But so I am going to, as I come sprinting out, and I'm just sort of whipping this Shadow Blade, and I just bring it up and it just throw it, and you see it just go end over end as it goes flying towards the captain. Hopefully it's better than it sounds. I got a 15 to hit.
It will hit.
Oh, excellent. All right, so the this is going to be force damage, and it is going to be 2d8. So that is 13. 15 points of damage as it hits him, and basically the shadow probably, I would imagine it probably hits him and then dissipates and just sort of goes into a mist and then reappears in my hand because I can recall it right after the throw. But I can't attack till next round. So that burns my total.
This impacts him kind of in the upper chest, right by his left arm, the one that's holding these scrolls. You can see the magic kind of working its way down and kind of up his neck. Bastarad.
Real quick, can I shout to the crew just as a standard crew action of like emergency, get to your to your stations, trying to restore order? They don't necessarily know my voice, but I know how to shout like an officer, if you will.
You can make a deception.
Okay. That is a 14. So I'm going to do that real quick, seeing the disarray and stuff of everybody screaming and running.
Yeah, and you can see the crew kind of stops for a moment to kind of look, and they very, very quickly parse out that you have no authority to tell them anything, and they can see that their captain is standing right there. So they certainly are not going to heed the call. Bastarad, it is your turn.
Are all the slaves in this room currently still down?
They are on the ground. They are not killed.
Not killed. I mean, prone.
Yes.
Prone.
Yes, they are prone.
Okay. So the major threat in the room having been eliminated and the captain having run away like a coward, Bastrad will sort of bellow out to the slaves on the floor, like, "Stay down, we don't have to hurt you." And then we'll start after getting himself up, we'll dash out towards the captain.
Viddaraas kind of staggers after you, putting a hand up to this wound on her temple that is bleeding.
Oh, seeing that, he will stop in his tracks and look to Ingvarad. You know what you have to do.
I'll stay with Auntie Ingvarad. We're right behind you, Da.
Nothing's going to hurt you, Viddaraas.
Too late.
Instead of dashing, he'll just move.
Okay. You likewise move out onto the deck and can see where Darian and Captain Hamilton look as though they are engaged in a sword fight, although at the moment they are both on the ground. And Cal is standing not far off with this shadowy blade in his hand. It is the captain's turn.
Oh, can I say? I'd like to say something to Cal real quick.
Yes, please do.
All right. So actually, right as he gets to Cal, he'll just say, "You can get Viddaraas down to the ground softly and safely, right? Ingvarad and Viddaraas are in there. It seems like the ship is going down. I'll take care of the captain.
Yeah.
Don't worry about what happens to me."
Get those contracts, please.
Hamilton scrambles to his feet and orders his men to activate the elevator. And as these stones rings are starting to stack up around him and make their soft hum and glow, he lunges forward just a bit and shoves his scimitar in your direction, Darian. Your AC, you said, was a 15?
Yes, sir.
Okay. He's going to hit. And similarly to someone else we know. He's a little swashbucklery, so he gets to apply his sneak attack as he faces you one-on-one. Okay, that's going to be 17 points of damage as he stabs you with this scimitar in the side of your abdomen and says, I think we'll meet again. This light starts to coalesce around him. You can see, Darian, this blackness kind of starting to overtake his hand that's holding these scrolls, and he winces, and one of the scrolls falls and rolls free. He clutches his scimitar under his arm and reaches that hand, his fighting hand, out to grab, and then he disappears. However, his hand and his wrist do not go with him. Severed, it flops to the deck where he was just standing a moment before. Even though he is reappearing 100 or more feet down below, you can hear his howls. The slaves stay put. The rest of the slaves, the slavers on the ship, are already starting to try to find a way off the ship. They're trying to get this elevator back so that they can take it down as well. Several of them have started breaking out grappling hooks and rope and are beginning to try to rappel as far down as they can. You see one desperate soul leap over the side of the ship, lands on a piece of the broken city that is headed skyward, and then turns and leaps from it to another. He makes it through 3 or 4 of these broken pieces that are increasing in regularity before he misjudges and plummets the rest of the way down. So, these slavers are not interested in trying to stop or fight you. However, you have a very limited time before you're going to be able to escape this ship before it crashes. I would like to do a skill challenge. I am looking for 5 successes before you get 3 failures. The DC is 16. Once you successfully use a particular skill, you cannot use that skill again. So, whenever you are ready, whoever wishes to make the first attempt may describe what's going on and make your roll.
Just to clarify, the ship's, just as a quick scan, is the ship done?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It is starting to lose altitude.
Okay. So I am trained in maneuvering these vehicles, so I'm going to try to write it down. So I'm going to try the first challenge, so I'm going to start running for the to try to slow the descent and guide the ship down to at least a somewhat comfortable berth, and then lock it into place as it's sort of guiding itself down to wherever it's currently land.
Astro will call out as he sees you running off. Like, where are you going? You're the only one that can keep them safe.
And I say, and I tell him what I'm going to do. I am going to guide the ship, and then I'm going to hold the captain's wheel in place. We're going to have to jump, but I'm going to try to guide the ship to as safe a landing as possible. Get them together and bring them to the captain's deck.
Okay, Calp, you make your way to the helm, and you're going to try to steer this thing as best you can. You are proficient with sky vehicles, so you can add your proficiency. I think this is kind of a strength-based thing at this point. This ship is limping rapidly towards the ground.
All right. Well, so I got an 18 on the die. My proficiency is +2, so it's a dirty 20, but my strength is a -1, so I got a 19 total.
Excellent. Lloyd brought up a good point. There is an argument for trying to play the intelligence angle, of literally trying to work out the angles and calculations. If you'd like to try that instead, you can just use the same roll.
Okay, so then it would be a dirty 20. 22, rather. Total.
Okay. Yeah, that's soundingly, either way, a success. And you're able to try to slow this thing's crash, essentially.
Right. And then what I'm going to do is, you know how you have that rope that's nearby, and I just kind of lock it in place, and then I start looking for my party. But that's going to be my action. So,
absolutely.
So I have, if I can have a quick aside, there's actually something that's not related to the skill challenge of getting off the ship, but there is something that I want to perhaps try.
Okay. Sure.
I don't know if I can interrupt or not.
I'm all ears.
So assuming that the captain and perhaps some of the crew are still like underneath the ship, I'd like to try to grab one of those huge tanks of that green aether and drop it on his head.
Oh, wow.
from up
Okay.
here. I don't know if that'd be possible or not.
Yeah,
but-
sure. I mean, yeah, we had established that one of the crates of the Zephyrs was open. So you could certainly remove one of those and try to toss it over the edge. Hitting him with it's going to be difficult, but it's possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know exactly how you want to work that mechanically.
So let's do this as a. This is probably going to have to be a strength-based attack because it is thrown. I guess it's dropped, but so go ahead and make a strength attack. You're not proficient with this kind of attack, but you could get lucky.
All right, and I'm guessing it's going to be with.
Oh no! All I heard was that's going to be with. And then
The classic Dodie freezes. Just about to say the important part of the sentence and then freezes.
I can't tell if he's still frozen. He looks like he's still frozen. Oh no. Okay. So while he's doing that, while he hopefully gets that sorted out and we figure out the roles and whatnot, who's going next?
I'll go if that's okay.
Sure.
Oh, you can take if you want. Nope. Okay, I'll go.
Go. I know what I'm going to do is probably not going to be helpful, so go.
Okay. Infrared is very simply going to like take your shield and put it over Viddaraas and then just try and like barge out of the room and up onto the deck and get as close to where everyone else is, particularly where Kelp is, as quickly as possible. So I rolled athletics. I got a 19 all up.
Easily. You know that in tense situations like these, your meditative calm has kind of kept your collected head and allows you to concentrate on the task at hand and pushing yourself, and you do so, managing to guide the wounded Viddaraas along with you. All right, that's 2 successes, 0 failures. Who's next?
I come running out of the room that we were in for the parlay, since everybody else has run from the room. And as I run out of the door, I stop and look back to where I saw that hellhound in the box. Is it anywhere around?
You see the box on the deck, and it is shifting across the deck, sliding dangerously close to a destroyed portion of this ship.
Oh, shit. You're not going to make this easy.
No.
I'm absolutely going to run and dive at this box.
Okay.
Knowing what's in it, I just don't want to let it go.
Understandable. Okay. So again, this sounds like not an intention to help towards the crashing of the ship necessarily, but a side action, kind of like what Jeff did.
Let's be honest. What can I really do?
Hey, I'm not opposed to it. So this sounds like probably athletics, maybe acrobatics.
I'll buy that for a gold piece, I guess. Athletics sounds good.
Okay.
A little bit of a sprint and dive. All right.
Don't fail this by a lot.
Oh, I just threw the dice across my desk. All right. According to my character sheet, I have a point of inspiration.
That's very likely.
I'm going to burn that right now.
Okay.
And that is a natural 20.
Fantastic. So, what was it before?
It was an 11, which would have made it a 13.
Okay.
So it's a 22 now.
Excellent. So, what does it look like as you dive for this box and you're not going to make it initially, but some kind of fate or destiny or the Colossiahs, whatever you want to call it, intervenes and allows you to catch this box?
I run, seeing it slide. I take about 3 quick strides, leap into I'm just head first, arms outstretched, sliding on my belly towards this box. As I see the box just about to go over the edge of this broken part of the ship, I grab it in one hand. There's a clinking of glass against the wood as the healing potion, still unquaffed, is in my hand and kind of clatters up against the box, and I'm sort of tucking it into myself, but my momentum is still carrying me right over this broken section of ship. And at that moment, a small section of the city that was still rising up with all these other large pieces, no more than 3 feet in diameter, moves up and just sort of comes right up through that section of broken away ship like a puzzle piece fitting into place, and kind of nudges me as it pushes up and kind of is tumbling and breaks away part of the deck. Its rolling action sort of turns me to my side, and I slam my neck and shoulders up against a piece of intact railing, a mere foot or so from the shattered edge of the deck, now cradling both this healing potion and this box. And
Fantastic.
Breathing very heavily.
Yeah, the pitch of this ship is tilted in such a way that you're kind of looking down at the broken city kind of below you. Quite a ways below you. All right, Jeff, you said you got an 18?
Yeah, I'm going to use an inspiration point because I'm guessing that would have been with disadvantage otherwise, given the
Yeah, that makes good sense.
circumstances. So I'll negate that with an inspiration, which will give me an 18 to hit. He just hurls
Excellent.
this huge tank of this Zephyr Aether, and will just hurl it as best he can, trying to at least get it to land near enough that the blast will hit him.
Okay. Do me a favor. Roll 8d6. And give me the total.
Or was that 8d6?
8d6, like a fireball.
Yes, sir. Oh, Jesus. That's 4 6s off the bat.
Wow.
So
Too bad you're not rolling with a character.
no kidding. It's going to be 37 points of damage.
Good night. You kind of hoist this thing kind of up. It's fairly heavy for being, filled with what you would assume is kind of a gas, almost this kind of liquidy gas. You heft this up onto the rail and heave it over the gunnel, and you watch as it kind of like rolls in an awkward fall and hits in the courtyard of the elven cathedral down below you. And you can hear, or you can see rather, it shatter, and the blue kind of liquid gas of the ether just immediately like expands away from this rapidly. And then you see it all go up in ether fire. And there's that kind of small delay before you hear the report of this explosion, as pieces of this citadel are sent out as shrapnel into the buildings all around it. And the tower, this prayer tower that the ship has been tethered to, begins to collapse and fall, pulling the ether tether and the nose of the ship into an unintended direction. I'm counting that as one failure on the skill challenge. However, you're fairly certain that whatever was down there has been destroyed, including the elevator. So we have 2 successes and 1 failure. I still need 3 successes before we get 2 failures.
Feeling this this tower collapse start to pull the nose of this ship down, I was hoping that Bastra might be able to make some sort of insight check to find out, to figure out like if there's any of these ropes attached to these sails that he could give a hard yank to try to mitigate some of the spiral from this rapid descent.
Absolutely. That sounds like a fantastic choice.
Ooh, boy. Well, that's another failure. That's a 12.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Wait a second. Hold on. Wait a minute. Do I have an inspiration? I do. I'm going to try it as well because we're so close. Come on. Hold on. Oh, damn it. D20 went right off the table.
That die has lost forever.
Nope. Got it.
Oh,
It's a roll on a tiny little rolling desk. Hey, that's a 17 on the die, so that makes it a 21.
Excellent. Okay. So yeah, you'll absolutely succeed in lowering some of these or just cutting them free, so that it takes out some of the spin on this ship. Excellent. That is 3 successes. Is everybody? I think everybody's made an attempt so far, so feel free to make a second. You just cannot use the same skill if you have succeeded once before.
Yeah, I'd actually like to use, if I could, a sailing check. Given that I have a lot of experience with ships, not of the air variety, but at least with the construction of ships. Basically trying to determine, like, if we are going to hit, where's the best place for us to be and for the ship to actually make contact that will like provide the least amount of damage and make sure that we're in the safest position to take the least amount of damage as a result of a crash landing. Given my experience, I'm sure with tough ship situations before.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think your understanding of the anatomy of a ship is fairly universal, so you can certainly kind of quickly ascertain potentially where the best place is going to be for how this ship appears to be crashing. So that sounds like maybe a wisdom usage, but I'm assuming you are you're proficient with sea vehicles at least.
Yeah, and I actually have part of one of my abilities that says I double my proficiency bonus when relating to like ship-based
Nice.
checks and things like that as well.
Then that would absolutely
So-
qualify in this situation.
Alrighty, so that is going to be a 16 on the die, so it's going to be a 20, just a 20.
All right. That is another success, however. So that's 4 successes and only 1 failure. And yeah, only 1 failure so far. Excellent.
And so Darian's just going to start calling out, like, brace here, like, move these crates here and sit behind. Just basically yelling where to, like, hold on to and where to guide the ship.
All right. As this is careening kind of to the side, it hits another building, this tall palatial tower, causing it to collapse and also rocking the boat yet again. Everyone, if you would please make dexterity saving throws.
Jeremy, quick question while Austin's rolling that and dropping it on the floor. Leaf on the Wind. I can actually sort of, with practice, I can actually work it like Featherfall because I can move diagonally and keep breaking the fall until I get to the ground. Is that a true statement? The way it's written, it seems like I can keep diagonally moving. It sort of slows it down.
Yeah, so the elves of your kind can kind of magically glide through what they believe to be a blessing of the wind goddess. So, yeah, you can basically move like laterally as far as you fall.
So I could save it, even though I land kind of rough, I'd be landing running sideways or running at a diagonal run.
Yeah, basically you'd make a check at the end of the fall to see whether it was a soft landing or more of a crash.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So on the second saves that you got, Ingvarad and Darian, what you got? Did I miss him in the chat? I don't see him in there. So
Or what was that?
the second dexterity saving throw.
Oh, sorry, I did. I must have missed the part where we did.
Yeah,
the
me too.
second one.
At 9
Sorry.
and 12.
And 12. Okay.
6.
6. Okay. Bastarad, you were thrown to the deck as another tower had been collided with. And Ingvarad and Darian were both likewise thrown to their feet, or thrown off their feet. Ingvarad is thrown to the gunwale and over the side of the ship. But, Ingvarad, you have managed to grab a hold of this railing and are holding on to it. Bostrad, you likewise are able to hold on and not get thrown from the ship. However, Darian, you lose your balance and fall. You are dangerously close to one of the broken pieces of this ship. You slide across the deck and go right over the edge. You are now free falling towards the city of Belorion down below you. We have 4 successes and 1 failure.
Did I see him fall over the edge?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to sprint then to the side, and I still have my song in effect. Lasts for a minute. I think it's still in effect. So I have a 80 feet of movement, and I am going to sprint and dive over the side. And as I'm falling, I'm basically taking the opportunity to dive diagonally toward Darian until I reach him, and then I'm going to cast Featherfall on him.
Okay, so you're going to try to do like a flyby. I think it's Feather Touch, or is Featherfall Touch?
Yeah, I believe it is a touch.
60 feet.
60 feet.
Oh, 60 feet. So
okay,
I am going to sprint to the side then and try to cast it on him.
Excellent. Okay, so do me a favor. I know it's not typically the situation, but roll me a concentration check. So I guess it would be a con save?
Yeah. I actually get a bonus on that because of the Blade Song. So
nice.
Rolled a natural 20.
Perfect.
So it's a 20 con save throw.
So
22.
Darian, your life begins to flash before your eyes, as does the buildings of this elven city as they start to race upward towards you. And then all of a sudden, it all comes to like a standstill almost. And you feel yourself slowly kind of drifting towards the ground. Describe what that moment's like.
So there's this moment where he's like, he's sure, he's guaranteed, like he's about to die. As he like tumbles over the edge and begins to fall. He's seen people fall overboard into the ocean, and like that's the last time that you ever see them. And the land is much less forgiving, even than the sea is in this regard. So the panic begins to set in. Like all the choices that he's made, the life that he's led up until this point, kind of all hits him in those milliseconds of that fall. As he like begins to like wonder, is this really, after all that's happened, all the choices that I've tried to make to change my life for the better, is this really how it ends? Falling ingloriously off the side of a ship, only to splatter on the ground and be forgotten, just like the scum that he used to be. And then there's this moment where everything's kind of rushing in, both literally and psychologically on him, that the panic and shock of it all begins to set. And then suddenly there's just like that that wind resistance that comes up that stops his fall, or at least dramatically slows it. There's like a moment of just complete confusion, understanding, like not understanding how that could even be possible, given his skill set. This is so radically outside of the realm of physics that it doesn't seem to make sense. And then he'll like look up and see Kalp with his hands outstretched and the voice song on the wind. and he'll like understand what's happened as his descent slows. Just kind of like look at his head and begin laughing like a maniac, with just pure relief, as his fall stops.
And for the second time, perhaps, Kalp has saved the life of Darian Black. Okay. I'm still looking for one more success before I get 2 more failures. Who's the brave soul that's going to do it?
How close is the ship to the ground?
Oh, let's say maybe within 100 feet.
Yeah, I literally have no idea. I know nothing about ships or being in the air. I know nothing about crashing. I think as I climb to my feet, holding this healing potion in one hand and this box in the other, I'm just looking around helpless. Not so much afraid, just I literally don't know what to do. And I don't see Ingvarad anywhere.
I'm going to say you do actually see her hanging over the side of the ship.
That's probably the first time you would see the fear. As I would... I would rush to the edge of the railing where she's hanging over the side and kind of almost slide on my knees there, and immediately this tiny young dwarf start grabbing at her and trying to pull her up, dropping the box and the healing potion on the deck next to me.
The healing potion shatters, spilling its contents uselessly on the wooden deck. The box hits with a sounding thud and kind of slides to the gunnel and catches for the moment at least. You reach over and grab a hold of Ingvarad. If you're trying to haul her back into the ship, I'm going to need a strength check.
Yeah, there's no question I'm trying to pull her up. Oh, that rolled right past 20 and landed on 8 for a total of 10. Or was that straight strength?
That's up to you. You can, if you'd like, you can even actually apply this towards this skill challenge and make it a strength-based skill.
Well, it doesn't really matter.
Hmm.
There's no way I can even... I'm going to try to deceive the laws of physics. No, I rolled an 8 on the die.
Okay.
So that's going to give me a 10. As I'm desperately trying to pull against gravity, pulling on Ingvarad, grabbing at her, and yeah, just struggling with everything I have. I mean, the cords in my neck, the muscles pulling as hard as I can to just no avail.
Okay. To answer your question, Austin, you were thrown about, but you did not go up and over. Okay, Katja, you try as you might, and Ingvarad, though she is a female, Bonekin is, easily twice your height almost. And she probably outweighs, the heaviest dwarf that you've ever known. And yes, she's also wearing quite a bit of equipment and armor. So it's just not happening. And you basically are able to call out just in time to allow Ingvara to kind of press herself against the ship as it passes narrowly between a building's face and almost scrapes her from the side of the ship. That is going to count as a failure. So we are going to have one last roll.
Bastarad will make a sprint towards. He'll scramble to his feet and sprint himself towards where Ingvarad has gone over, and he's going to try the same thing. Just try to heave her back onto board, so that she at least has a chance to brace before the crash. And he'll as he runs, he'll yell to Viddaraas, "Brace yourself, be ready." Is this the day where you get double the roll? Okay. That's gonna be a 9. It's a 9.
You reach up and over this gunnel to grab a hold of Ingvarad. Just as you kind of grab a hold of her and are starting to haul, you turn and look. In Bastarad, you see the ground rapidly approaching. The front of the ship crunches dangerously into the street of this elven city. Lists hard to the side and plows to a stop, crashing through several buildings, statues, columns, making a horrendous noise before it finally ceases to move. And that is where we're going to take our break. 5-10 minutes. Go to the bathroom, refill your drinks, kiss your spouse, smoke them if you got them, etc., etc. If you are watching this evening, thank you very, very much for tuning in. If you're watching in the future, thank you likewise. And stick around. We'll be right back, and we'll finish this up.
you think that Jeremy is harsh enough to have me smushed into dirt?
Only one way to find out.
That sounds like a challenge, Lloyd.
I'm just saying, if it was me, I'd be dead. 2 failed deck saves and a series of missed checks. So, listen. I mean, I hope I'm not, but
We're going to have to see. The dice are going to end up telling the best story.
Can't believe I held on to that healing potion for, 3 rounds and then dropped it?
Yeah, glass doesn't do well when you drop it.
I had a reason for holding on to it. But that reason's gone overboard.
So it seems like by me failing the deck save that I actually ended up like in the best situation here.
All I wanted to do the whole time was just like get us all feather falling off that fucking thing. I was so like, oh no, this is not gonna go well.
Well, I'm featherfalled, at least.
Well, that's good. That's good. At least someone lives to fight another day. We'll see what happens.
This is where Jeremy twists around in me and has the ship just like the ship is like following faster, but I'm under it, so it just like lands on me and kills me.
All right. Dave had asked, because Featherfall is up to 5 people, he wanted to see if he could put the other 4 on Bostrad, Ingvarad, Katya, and Viddaraas. So it might not be as bad as you guys think. But
yeah, I would imagine that he came lunging over the edge and kind of pressed his belly up against the side and just threw his hands over the side. Kind of like this crazy maestro, as you see this blue wave, just you can't really see it as it dissipates and it connects with Darian. But then I just kind of lunged back and just sort of threw my hands toward my companions. But it didn't seem appropriate for me to describe that.
I think the magic will have taken hold. It's just going to be a matter of whether or not that's going to do a lot of good in the situation. Okay, so what I'm going to need from each of you is going to be a strength saving throw. Ingvarad, you are going to have disadvantage. Darian, you are on a piece of the city, aren't you?
I'm just straight up falling.
Oh, that's right.
Fall.
That's right. Right. So no, you will actually be okay.
Can I take a disadvantage?
Sure.
From Ingvarad and give the help action since I'm still pulling on her?
Yeah. I'm okay with that.
To negate her. Basically, I want to trade disadvantage with Ingvarad.
Okay. Yeah, it'll give you disadvantage on your save, but you can take away the disadvantage from her.
Because I'm desperately trying to pull her up.
Sure thing.
And I will roll at disadvantage. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I'm not. 20s? Hold on. Let it go ahead and let everybody roll. I'm not touching the dice. I'm going to do a thing. Oh my gosh.
Oh, Calp.
Come on.
All right.
Why is it not showing? I rolled 2 nat 20s. I've never done that before. What the hell? It's not letting me do this. I guess you'll just have to trust me.
Okay. I absolutely do trust you, Jake. That's not a problem. All right. So, did I get everybody's? Okay, yes. All right. What was yours? Jake, you said you got 220s?
Which
Okay.
would make it a 22.
All right. So, somehow you are able to shield yourself from the worst of this crash, and likewise protect Ingvarad from most of the pain and damage. Full damage from this crash, for those of you who have failed, which is Calp. Yeah, I guess it's just Calp, actually, is 39 points. So half of that will be 19.
I'm still unconscious.
That I'd be
Me
taking
too.
full damage, right?
Yes, you would.
That's more than double my hit points. So
Okay. So that takes you into your negative threshold.
yeah, because I think isn't it double your hit points or hit points plus Constitution?
It's whatever your hit points are. Negative is how far you can go.
Yeah, so I'd be at 5 beyond that. So I would imagine that what happened is the ship landed and I was pressed up against the railing, and as it hit, it caught me in a way, and then I would imagine Kalp just was flipped up into the air, and then as the ship rose again, he probably landed underneath the belly of the ship as it just ground back down and continued on. As I mean, that's up to you, but that is 5 beyond.
Yeah. So it will be discovered at some point that Kalp did not survive this crash, but that the magic that he departed to the five of you, including Viddaraas, is very likely what saved each of you. So as you are pulling yourself out of this crash, or what have you, how is this playing out?
Imagine it's probably Darian that would actually make it over first, given that he would kind of just land as the ship is still going down from the fall. He'd like cover his mouth and nose as he lands to make sure that none of the aether fumes from the fire get to him in this vulnerable state. Less from the burns and more from the effect that it might have on him from the drug. And then once he lands on his feet, he'll like sprint over to the crash, desperately start like throwing rubble and looking for people, just desperately trying to see what's actually happened here.
And the rest of you, who is it that Darian finds first?
I would imagine at some point he quickly uncovers Katya and Ingvarad still unconscious, but Katya still, even in unconsciousness, gripping Ingvarad's at least one of her arms. I imagine with this severe of a crash and just the damage and everything that because I was holding onto her arms through the railing, my left arm is broken. Both the two bones in the forearm are broken, maybe even a compound fracture. I don't know. I don't know. I'm unconscious. But that other hand is gripping tightly, the nails having dug into Ingvarad's flesh, as both of us are there unconscious.
You would see also Bastrad very nearby them after having also been attempting to pull Ingrid in before the crash. But he's sort of gasping and starting to push pieces of rubble off of him. And you see that these two big curling horns that he has, one of them has just snapped. There's this like stump of horn where the other one is still got most of its point intact. And he sees you for just a moment and then realizes what's happened, like realizes the crash as he kind of comes to his senses, his whole body beaten and battered, and he immediately turns towards where the deck was, where he last saw Viddaraas, and he starts screaming for it, like, Viddaraas, where are you? And he starts just moving through the rubble, just pushing anything apart, like that same frantic sort of search that he sort of half saw Darian and half heard him doing from his dazed state.
Ingrid was holding onto the side of the ship, and I think that as it like hit the ground, she would have bounced basically off, but held by Katya and Bastrad would have then smashed into the side of the ship. And now, certainly with broken ribs, and I think like lost teeth, and maybe even like a cheekbone broken, she looks dead. She is unconscious, and I think she's like bleeding heavily and not moving.
So Darian, you come upon the still broken forms of Katya and Ingvarad, while there's no sign of Kalp currently. And you can see not far away from you, Bastrad is frantically uncovering Viddaraas, who also seems to be unconscious. Maybe more.
And Darian is going to like frantically run the last couple feet from where he is to where Katya and Ingvarad are, and he's going to like slide down onto his knees, probably cutting them on rubble as he does so. And he's just going to immediately begin trying to like grab Ingvarad and just start trying to see where the biggest damage is, if there's any serious cuts or internal bleeding or anything that he could possibly do to try to get her in good condition, because he knows that if he can get her up, that she can help other people. He's seen her heal before, and that's she can do it way better than he can. He's going to try to give her any sort of medical attention that he can, seeing her in such bad shape.
Do you happen to have a healer's kit on you?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, does not look like it.
All right, so
I don't know if Ingvarad would have one, but if I could like even like do a check over her body to see what is thinking that she, is a healer, that she might have something too, in like the kind of frantic search.
Yeah, she does.
Perfect. If I would be able to find that relatively easily, then I would take it, knowing that she wouldn't mind me stealing from her in this instance, hopefully, and we'll take her healer's kit and try to use it on her.
Okay. Do me a favor also and just roll a d20 by itself.
Okay. 14.
Okay. All right, let's see. A healer's kit. I think it can give a smidge of HP back, if I'm not mistaken.
Only with a feat, I think.
That's only with
Maybe
the healer feat, actually. It just guarantees a stabilization. Otherwise, like, you don't have to roll for it.
Okay, cool. So yes, Ingvarad, if you were having to make death saves in this situation, you have stabilized.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry, go ahead.
Finding Viddaraas Bastrad is saying a prayer over her, and casting Spare the Dying in the same vein. He's just repeating, you're going to be all right. It's going to be okay. I'm going to get you out of here. We're going to get you out of here. It'll be all right.
And Spare the Dying is actually a racial feature, is it not, for the Bonekin?
Yeah.
So what does that look like? How does that differ from like a normal like clerical spell?
So as he places his fingers to her forehead, this light glow starts to emanate from his fingertips, and the reddishness of his skin seems to almost intensify to like a burning ember at the tips of his fingers, and just there's this slight pulse of it, and he withdraws his hand and says his little prayer over her, only half believing the words, but feeling like it's part of what he needs to do to make it truly happen. Anything that'll work.
A prayer of desperation. You can watch as she begins to breathe a little easier, and you think that she's at least safe for the time being. Though you realize the situation around you is certainly not ideal. A lot of these buildings that were crashed through are probably not going to stand for very much longer. And at the very least, you know that there are carnage hounds that roam the streets of Belorion. Okay. So, as you are getting Katya and Ingvarad kind of gathered back up and collecting your group, you realize Kalp is missing. Nobody seems to know what happened to him. Who makes the grisly discovery?
I think it's got to be me, given that I'm the one who I think knew him the best out of the group. I think Darian kind of has pulled, if it's okay with you, has kind of pulled Katya and Ingvarad out of the kind of proper rubble of the ship and away from like the core of the buildings that we've hit, just to ensure that if something does collapse or if more instability kind of shakes things up, that they'll be sort of out of the way. And then to like go back towards Basterad to try to find and make sure that he and Viddaraas and Kalp are okay. And I'll just begin like shouting, like, has anybody seen Kalp? Where's Viddaraas? Just kind of like shouting, and then suddenly like kick at some of the rubble, and see I think just like a smear of blood, and then yeah, as Dave said in the chat, a hand buried far underneath other pieces of shrapnel and wreckage, with that elven signet ring on it, and his heart will sink, and he'll just like lean down and just shake his head, and I'll think back to just seconds before, of Kalp reaching over the balcony to cast that saving spell on him, of all people, the wretch who does not deserve saving, and is instead the savior is the one who ends up falling, and he'll just like slam a hand down onto the ground, probably cutting it on pieces of wood, and surely like smashing part of your bone, as he smashes the stone ground, and just like shake his head. I think he'll like lean down, and knowing that there's hardly going to be anything left of Kalp underneath the rest of that rubble. Like there's no way that he'll reach down to the signet ring and kind of work it off of the hand before it becomes too stiff, and kind of look it over in his hand. And just continue just like shaking his head furiously. Just not really understanding what's happened or how to even like comprehend the chaos and carnage that's just unfolded.
You all know that within 36 hours or so, that all of the light will be gone, that dusk will have finished, and that you will have entered the long night. You know that getting back to the barterdom will be possible, but it's going to be difficult. And in the distance, you hear, "Help! Help!" And that's where we're going to stop. So, wow. That was a hell of a session, everybody. Thank you very, very much for making it a hell of a ride. And I cannot wait until next month. We'll get to find out what happens next. So before I put a bow on this and say goodnight, I'm going to pass it over to my fantastic players so that they can do introductions. Sure.
Sure.
Sure. Do introductions. Plug whatever you want to plug. Things of that nature. And then we'll call it a night. So first up, Dave.
So that moment, Kalp is in the air and he's taking aloft, and he is actually flying back to a moment of seeing the face of a Renovat, and he actually reiterates something he said from the beginning. I know you, and I have always known you, and it is time to come home. As he was accepted into the arms of a Renovat, as he tumbled underneath the weight of the airship and was crushed. So, I've been Dave with Mornblade Gaming. I was playing Kalp tonight, the Blade Singer. So, that's me.
Character death is never something that is easy, Dave. So I appreciate you being a champ about it. And I think we'll figure out what we're going to do next here. And it should be fun. All right. So next up, we have Austin.
Wow. Another I don't have any character outro to do. Just have to say that was incredible. Another fantastic session. That scene in the captain's quarters was something else. That was amazing. And that ended on such an amazing downer. That was just so great, but so terrible. And I'm so sorry, Dave. Because I know what that's like.
No, I don't mean to steal your thunder, but I was just sitting here thinking, like, that whole thing was so fucking awesome. I mean, the whole thing that we just orchestrated, because it seemed like I was sitting there kowtowing to Captain, Hamilton, and then, oh shit, things changed. Yeah, Kalp died, but I think that the overall was freaking awesome. So, yeah, it's sad, but
incredible session, fantastic people all around. Like there are points where I'm just sitting up there like eating popcorn, just like, oh, this is amazing. I love watching you guys. Oh yeah, I'm playing too. And so just thanks again. I don't have any YouTube channel to plug, but I guess I'll plug Russian Doll on Netflix. It's really good and you should watch it.
I'll have to take your word for it. I haven't seen it yet. Excellent. Next up, we have Jake.
I'll second that. Russian Dolls was very good. Russian Doll, not Russian Dolls, was very good. Very original show. Check it out. I'm Jake. I played Katya, and both myself and Katya are sad. I'm not sure how to process this. This will be interesting. I really like the being involved in such a dramatic and epic failure that resulted in a character death that has the potential to be, from a storytelling point of view, I mean, those are the kind of things that that motivate other characters, the survivors. And even in that short time that we were together, Kelp had made connections with all of us. So I'm really excited to see how this is going to play out, how this is ultimately going to affect all of us. In addition to our own baggage that we're continuing to accumulate. So yeah, this is just an incredible story that, Jeremy's at the helm, but you can see those spaces where Jeremy steps back and lets each one of us sort of guide things in the direction narratively that we're going to take it, for better or worse. And I just love playing with all of these guys and playing off of one another. It's fantastic. I'm Jake from Mini Terrain Domain. Google Mini Terrain Domain. Pretty much everything you find is me. If you find something Mini Terrain Domain that's not me, let me know. Unless you Google MTD, you'll probably get a bunch of lawnmowers and snowblowers. Otherwise, tune in tomorrow night where you can see me DMing Jeremy on twitch.tv/Mini Terrain Domain.
I hardly look forward to the payback.
And Metade.
Metade, always. All right. Fantastic. Next up, we have Lloyd.
That was great. I thought I was going to die, and then I didn't, and then Calc did. And listen, that's a bummer, but it's also great. Like, I always think, like, the stakes are high, and it's like proof that they really are high, and the dice do a good job of that, And there's plenty of GMs who would have been like, oh, you can have advantage on that check, or oh, you can do blah, blah, blah. And it's like very satisfying to me that that's not the case here. Even though Calp has to die, it like increases my investment in some ways. It's a great game. Like the pirate parlay was very, very tense. I was like literally, edge of my seat stuff, which is great. Yeah, and I'm excited to see what happens now. I think like we're looking like we might be dead, guys. But yeah, it was really good.
Excellent. Yeah, it's never my intention to kill a character. I never gun for people, but like sometimes it's just the right call. Just what needs to happen. All right. Yes, I'm so happy that your internet panned out throughout the entire course of the game, Lloyd. Thank you for sticking with that and figuring it out. All right. Last but certainly not least, we have Jeff.
Man, well now we get to add survivor's guilt to Darian's many psychological complexes that he's developed, so that'll be fun. I'll like fifth what everybody else has said. Super fantastic session, and while it's always very unfortunate to have a character go down, I've been on that side of things in a Jeremy game before, so I know the feeling. But I'll agree with Lloyd and say that it does for all the terrible stuff that it does bring into it. It also does heighten kind of the rest of the feeling of the game in a good way too. And we are in a really tough spot now with literally 3 people unconscious, the other 2 nearly dead. in a tough spot. So I'm excited to see how we manage to get out. Do in fact manage to get out of this, which seems unlikely, but that's half the fun. Yeah, I'm Jeff. I have a YouTube channel of my own. It's called Counterbalance, where I run my games. I will be running session 1 of a brand new campaign on there on Saturday. Lloyd is going to be one of the players in that game as well, along with some other absolutely fantastic players. So that'll be a good time. So check that out if you're interested. I also do a live show with Jeremy and Chad Nick called The Dudes of Yore. So check that out as well if you're so inclined. Yeah, absolutely fantastic session. Can't wait till the next one.
Well, everyone, thank you very, very much again for playing. And again, every time that you guys sit down, you take kind of what I've got on paper and you set it on fire in the best way possible. And I cannot wait to see how that's going to happen next time. So, yeah, thank you once again for anybody who watched. And until next time, may your dice roll high and your snacks always be within reach.